the mixes were tragic, but you've got to start somewhere. You have to be bad to start with. I just got an email one day like, hey, do you want to play Leeds Festival? And I was like, yeah, okay. I had no idea it was going to be to 20,000 people. Maybe this isn't what I want to do. But in that situation, I came off the stage, me and my sister cried backstage, and I was like, I was born to do this.
Hi, I'm Alex Breeze, founder of Unheard Music, and welcome to Find Your Frequency, the podcast where we talk to people who have built something from nothing, artists, founders, investors, all united by that same obsession of how do you get people to care. And today I'm very excited to welcome someone that I've known for a good few years now. We were just reminiscing, Annabel Stop It, who has not just built an audience once, but twice, and she's gone from streaming in her bedroom through to now performing in front of tens of thousands of people at Tomorrowland. Annabel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. So good to see you again.
Really good to see you. And I'd love to take it back. Let's start from the start. You know, we met at Kiki, which was I really enjoyed the concept actually, you know, high quality, long form audio platform, which was all about discovery. Talk to me about that experience there. Maybe we start there around discovering your sound and your music.
Absolutely. I think that chapter of my life was a very significant chapter for me in my journey with DJing because it's really where my sound was born. I had already been pushing a career in the music industry before that, but that was more on... Well, at the very beginning, it started from like wanting to make original music, singing, songwriting, production. But at the time, it was kind of, that was school and uni days, and I couldn't really work out what my lane was or what my sound was. So I kind of put it to one side. Naturally transitioned into presenting and doing radio, community radio, shout out Represent FM and Radar Radio, which is no longer with us. And yeah, I kind of, through that radio presenter era, I felt like things weren't really working out for me, and I took a step back. Essentially, like, that was my first giving up moment, focused on just stabilizing my 9-to-5 life, paying the London rent and all of that. But then I picked up a DJ controller and I started giving that a go. Started putting some content online. That's how I ended up getting the job at Kiki. And through my experience there, I was surrounded by all these curators working across different genres. And I feel like the exposure to all the music every day just really led me down such a path of discovery. And that's how my sound was born. Wow.
And how did you first sort of create the first pieces of content? How did you know what to do? You know, how did you know that there was a certain angle you were supposed to capture perhaps, or it was this part of a track that people really wanted to hear?
At that time, I was obviously a terrible DJ. So, do you know what? I actually once played one of my mixes in the office and you commented on one of the transitions.
Oh no.
And you were like, what was that?
Oh no.
And I was like, that was my mix.
I'm so sorry. Did I know it was your mix?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I said it though. I was like, that was me.
I shouldn't be commenting on stuff like that because my transitions were awful. So
hey, no, honestly, the mixes were tragic, but you've got to start somewhere. You have to be bad to start with. So I worked from that to fine tune my skills. And I think, the actual very first move that I made in terms of putting myself out there as a DJ was recording mini mixes. They might have been about 15 minutes long. I probably recorded them 20 times over until they sounded good enough to put online. And then I would just send them to all of my mates in the industry, other DJs as well, and be like, oh, I've done a DJ mix. What do you think? And get feedback and just start spamming everyone on WhatsApp with my DJ sets.
Do you know what's really interesting here is I'm picking up on a theme throughout this podcast where most people have talked about things like resilience and consistency, you know, and that there's no shortcut. It really is about sort of being consistent, putting yourself out there, which can feel really uncomfortable at times. And the resilience piece, obviously taking feedback from me, I'm really sorry about that. But you obviously took it on board or whatever and sort of used it. But how's that journey been for you in terms of being consistent whilst also, you know, and we'll talk a bit more about your origin story, being consistent on the music side whilst also having to pay the rent, you know, and pay the bills, which is something I think a lot of our community will understand. Working 2 jobs, trying to make it work. How have you managed that?
Honestly, that has been the biggest challenge for me. And I often do feel like I could be more consistent, and I feel like this whole journey consists of different chapters, and you have the chapters where you need to take a step back and do what you have to do to keep a roof over your head, and also just like take yourself back to a good mental headspace as well, because you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not feeling inspired and energized, your output isn't going to be great. And for that reason, I do feel like I've had different eras in my journey where I've had to reprioritize things. So I guess, for example, one of the first pivotal chapters in my journey was starting live streaming on Twitch. And at that time, we were all in lockdown. No one could go out. No one could go out and spend money outside. People really, I think, found purpose in supporting creatives during that time. But I was also really fortunate that I still had a job. I was still on a salary. So I was working 9 to 5, and then in the evenings, my Twitch streams were like my social life.
That's great.
And I'd just get everyone involved. We'd be doing shots on the Discord. Like, it would be our version of clubbing at the time, I guess.
Wow.
And so that's like, you know, an example of a really amazing phase where it was a good setup and I could really pump out as much content as possible and really, really build that community. But then there have been chapters where it's often like the growing pains as well, like where I maybe push into the next stage of things. And so the DJ fees have gone up, but the shows have stripped right down. And even though perhaps my brand has been growing in the right direction, I don't have as much income or like the residencies that would support me month to month during quieter periods. And then I've had to think, okay, we're going back to the office and do what I need to do really to push through to the next chapter.
And you touched on something there which I think is interesting around like wellness and mental health. You know, it's a topic that is obviously really important, but particularly I think in the creative community where you can be so stretched because you have to work multiple jobs to make it work. And naturally, you're a creative person and that can take your headspace into different places. What is it that you've done to bring yourself back into a place where you have a little bit of calm and you can think more clearly about, you know, what your next stage might be? It's
like, it's a combination of things. You need to be okay financially. That is really like like first and foremost. Because if you're stressed about money, everything is just a disaster. And I've had those winters like where I feel like I've crashed and burned and I'm like, oh no, it's all over. And then spring comes around and all the bookings start coming in and I'm like, oh, everything's okay. And actually now I'm in a better position than I was last year. But then I feel like I'm in a vicious cycle of the winters like destroying any progress that I did make in the summer. And that's even something that I'm working through right now because I feel like, you know, 1 or 2 years of that is me figuring it out. 3 or 4 years of that is like, wait, I need to break a pattern here or I need to like re-strategize and just come up with a plan to avoid this moving forwards because it's slowing me down like long term. And there are so many reasons why that's the case as well. I think I've been on a bit of a journey with making my sound and my lane clear to like other people in the industry, like promoters and booking agents. That's been on a bit of a journey itself. But yeah, I think there's nothing to be ashamed of with realizing that you need to take some space away from everything, clear your mind, spend some time with your friends. Earn some money. And you've made clear your debts.
That is bad unless you're leveraging it to do something or whatever, but and you made a conscious decision, right, to sort of make sure that you had this stable regular income coming in plus obviously explore the creative pursuits as well. I can't help but want to ask you the question, like, if you stepped out of that, I don't want to call it a comfort zone because I don't think it is, but if you stepped out of that zone where you're like, I'm going all in on this, it feels like it would happen.
What, as in?
If you said, right, I'm not going to need the 9 to 5 stability, like regular income, because I know that the energy that I can put into DJing, touring, putting music out, that's going to be my full-time thing within months.
Well, that's essentially what did happen the first time around.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right in, like, we'll call it a safety net, like in jumping from the safety net, like you don't have a choice, you have to make it work.
Yeah.
But the first time I did that was with no strategy and no cash runway whatsoever because I got fired.
Okay. Awkward.
So,
was that Kiki?
No.
Okay, fine.
It was the job after that.
Okay, good.
The dating app.
I thought you were about to tell me that, like, you fired me as well or something like that. But thank God for that. Okay.
No, you're all good there. Okay. Yeah, so it did work. Yeah. But actually, like, there's so much that I've learned in hindsight on this journey, which is, like, frustrating, but also it's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I took we can reframe that and say I took a leap of faith to go full time with music. I was relying heavily on income from my streams. Yeah. And that requires a lot of time to be put into the preparing for the streams, engaging the community in between the streams, hours streaming and 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
It's almost a full-time job in that sense. And so it was difficult to build on the live shows around that and stay consistent. But also I found that my streams on Twitch didn't necessarily translate to the live DJ scene. And that's where, like, that was the first moment where I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. Like, what do I need to spend more of my time focusing on?
Yeah. And okay, so if we just go back a little bit, so we've gone from, learning to DJ, getting your first console, putting those mini mixes out into the world, then going on to perhaps sort of monetizing that a little bit. So getting onto Twitch, finding your audience, your community, your core fans there. And then you're in a position where actually what you're trying to do now is translate that into, I guess, another, to put it crudely, like revenue vertical or ways in which you can make money, but also I guess you want to enjoy it too. How did you navigate that transition then? Because what I know from you, having done a little bit of research, is you're now performing in front of tens of thousands of people. So you've made that transition. Yeah. So what was it that you had to sort of tweak and change to get there?
I had to, honestly, like in the most simplest way, I just posted less Twitch content on my socials. Okay. Because I wanted to start tailoring my feed to booking agents and promoters that would book me for those live shows. I didn't stop the streams. It's a big part of my community. And yeah, I basically just started to think about what actually speaks to the people in this industry who can help me build in the outside world with the live shows. And that's when I really, really put my head down with content and started. This was in the golden era of TikToks and Reels. I feel like we're maybe now in a social media recession. Yeah. But at the time, it was a good time to start pumping out all the content. So again, sort of with the seasonal struggles I was having, it was we were sort of at peak winter and I was feeling super low, like mentally very fragile. Diary wasn't looking very full and I was thinking, oh no, like, why do I keep getting this wrong? Like, what needs to change? And I was invited to do a set at this house party at a student's kitchen in Exeter.
Great.
And I so nearly didn't go because I was honestly just like that depressed. And I just thought, how can I possibly pick myself up and like deliver the energy? Because I really believe that it's all just an exchange of energy. If you can't put that out there, you're not going to get back what you want, and the crowd's not going to enjoy it. But thankfully, my sister was around at the time to give me some really stern advice.
Love that.
And she was frankly like, what the fuck else are you going to do? You don't have any other plans this weekend. I was like, thanks, Chrissy. I love that.
Yeah.
So I hopped on the train, went to the party, planned the best possible set that I could do. And it was like, yeah, to this day, one of the most electric shows I have ever played. And thankfully, there was plenty of camera coverage and the content went out there. I was like spamming away with my reels and it just sort of tipped over and started bringing millions and millions of eyes to my feed.
Wow.
And I'd had viral moments before that, again, from the same point of like hunger and just pumping out the content. But they were just like sporadic clips rather than part of a longer set that I could actually show for myself on my YouTube. So that's when it actually converted to live bookings.
Wow. And would you say that's when it sort of almost like clicked or changed for you? Was that the moment, or are there other moments where you look back and you go, that was actually the moment where things started to shift a little bit?
It's definitely been a series of those moments. Like the first one being when I decided to take the Twitch streaming seriously and actually like treat it like a job, and start reinvesting the money that I was earning from the streams, which was really scary at first because I just had no experience with investing in a business. And I was like, oh yay, I've made like £1,000 on this stream. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend that whole £1,000 on this, on building this PC. So I'm like, I'm making this money, but I'm not seeing it. But then I'm seeing the growth on the channel. And so, yeah, I think switching to a sort of business mind with my Twitch streams was the first moment there. Then another moment when I started taking the socials seriously. And then following the infamous Lab 54 set that was the viral DJ set, having to sit down and think about my actual positioning as an artist and have an honest conversation with myself that it wasn't quite going in the direction I wanted it to be.
Resilience.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy.
No.
And that is a theme that we hear a lot about, you know, the resilience, having the thick skin. You know, it's incredibly challenging. But I think one thing you have done, you know, is you've built a community. And this podcast is going out to managers, record labels, investors, music tech companies, well, everyone really, but also artists.
Yeah.
You know, and I think for artists, you've done something that they want to do. They want to, you know, get eyes on first and like get the millions of impressions and views that you've had. And then they want to be able to foster that to monetize it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Is there any advice that you would give to artists who are trying to go on that journey, you know, but are maybe in one of those dark times where it's not working, like, oh, I've done this track, but do I even bother putting it out, you know?
Yeah. It is so tricky when you feel like you're putting so much out there and it's just going into a void. And I think it's difficult for me to say in a sense because my way in was Twitch at first.
Yeah.
And I feel like I acknowledge that the circumstances were really great for that at the time.
Yeah.
And they're not the same anymore.
Yeah.
But there are other platforms and there are other ways to do this. And YouTube, I think, is a really... I'm slacking with my YouTube right now, but I feel like actually there's another moment there where I had a 20-minute DJ set on there, just filmed with my GoPro on a balcony while I was on holiday.
Great.
Not holidaying. And that was a mix that gained me my first traction on YouTube too. Like, I feel like you just need to find your platform and hone in on it and start from there. And you can, you know, we've got so much choice now with socials, but it is also oversaturated and it is difficult to cut through.
Yeah.
But I think if you can pick your platform and really focus on it and just try to build like that initial chat of like 5 to 10 people and then keep pushing along with them, they will help you grow.
I think that's great advice because actually one of my follow-up questions, and actually something I talk about a lot, is artists are supposed to be experts in, and producers, not just creating great music or sets, but creating great content that goes with that, the visual stuff, also navigating 20 platforms, you know, whether that's social media or streaming platforms, and you're supposed to sort of understand how they all work and how you can manipulate the algorithms to get that reach and awareness. But from what you're saying, it's pick your battles. You know, choose the platforms that perhaps feel most comfortable to you or resonate with your potential audience and double down on those.
Yeah. And also, like, the key thing for me all along has been like to be human. Like that's what has you know, if someone stumbles into the stream, that's been the thing that keeps them there and then makes them join the next stream. I sort of bring them along with me on the journey and all the ups and downs behind the scenes. But again, that's like, you know, that's to do with your brand and your voice as an artist. And if that's not you, then you need to find your thing as well.
Yeah.
But it is mad. It feels like we can't just be artists and DJs anymore. Like you have to be a sort of business marketing mastermind and wear all of these different hats.
Yeah.
But that is, like, that's what you're signing up for. Unless you can build a team around you that engineer that for you, which again, I think it's probably harder to do these days because, you know, labels are signing artists that show they already have the traction. It does feel like a very DIY era. So you want to be on board with all the other aspects of the business.
And I do really empathize with artists, and I think that's how I can connect with them on a deeper level, in that actually artists are supposed to be entrepreneurs in some senses now. You know, they've got to build a business which is sustainable and fosters community and loyalty, and that's the same thing that we do at Unheard. You know, it's building a business that you've got to manage multiple stakeholders, like grow the business and align with your values too. You know, one of our first values is putting artists first at all times.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's quite a challenge to align with when you're also dealing with shareholders who, you know, saying drive the business forward. So, you know, it's I completely resonate with the challenges they face. You've built audiences across multiple platforms. Which is the audience that you've built where you've managed to, I don't want to say gain the most from, because that sounds like a bad thing. I'm sure you love both of your all of your audiences. And it's a big audience, by the way, you know, 100K on Instagram and growing. But which of those platforms would you say, you know, does offer the most value, whether that's people converting to buying tickets or coming to your shows?
It's, you're right. The audiences are like incredible for different reasons. Like my Twitch audience will show up in every stream and they'll be there to support. And if I am in their territory doing a show, they might buy tickets, but they also might not be the type of person that would go to a live show. They might be just online supporters, and that's why that works for them. They also might tip very generously, which is amazing. And that's obviously like an income pillar in itself. But then the audience on my Instagram and on my YouTube would be the music lovers, the people that are probably more likely to buy tickets to a show. And probably, well, definitely the reason why I will get booked for certain shows and festivals would be off the back of that social proof on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
And can I ask, I struggle to manage a team of 5 or 6. Is how do you manage a community of hundreds, if not thousands, such that, because it sounds like you sort of you almost like know some of these people. They're almost like friends.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and I meat them at my shows.
That's amazing. And like, how do you manage so many people like within that? How do you foster that relationship at scale?
Oh, like you just, I remember, like you remember details about people, you know, like you remember that they just got a new job recently, and when you're in the stream, I'll chat to them and ask them how that's been. On Instagram, I'm always in the DMs. Like I love yapping away with people, and especially like the other female DJs that are breaking in to the industry. I just love. I'm a complete oversharer, so you can probably get any answers you want from me in the DMs, but that probably counts. You know, it does count for something in terms of building your community like that, because these people are more likely to show you support and feel like they're a closer part of the journey. I think with socials, it's amazing for that, because you can just have that direct access and you can sort of use it accordingly. Like I'll have the more polished stuff on my feed, but then on my story, it'll be like a bit more of the mad behind the scenes, and always sparks some sort of conversation when I'm backstage at a festival and something's going wrong.
and so you've fostered that community to the point where brands, household name brands like Adidas, you know, want to work with you, which again is such an incredible feat. What's the expectation when you're working with a brand like Adidas? You know, I'm thinking again about artists who might be listening. What, you know, do you feel the pressure there? What are they looking for? Are they looking for someone who can speak to a specific audience authentically? Like, how did you balance that?
I kind of winged it.
We're all winging it. So I think that's fun.
I'm also like, I'm on this podcast to share all my wisdom, and I've basically just been winging my whole career.
No, but it's great for people to hear about. Honestly, I think we see it all the time where you get a knockback, you get a setback, and people go, okay, cool, it's not for me. You know, and actually I don't think the setbacks are a bad thing. I think they filter out those people that, like, maybe it was just a bit of a hobby. Or,
Yeah, totally.
You know, so actually what this shows is if you want it, there's not a secret recipe, but it's hard work.
100%. Like, the bottom line is you just keep going, and you don't learn anything as well as like from just experience and trying it in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, with the brand collaborations, I think with Adidas, for example, I've done some brand events with them, but also I was a resident DJ in the store for a period of time. And in that instance, it's like no explicit music. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of extra work for me in my record box.
What is your sound? We should.
It's like global club, global bass music. It's like where I'm at now, but that will include things from baile funk, Jersey club, Miami bass, and then the more sort of UK bass-driven sounds as well.
Nice.
Basically, I'm very greedy with my genres.
I love that.
Big club energy. But yeah, no, at the time when I was a resident DJ for Adidas, I was really going through a transition because I was going from my initial like hip hop, UK rap, R&B sound from the community radio days into more of a global club electronic space. And actually, like, it ended up being the perfect way to practice that, and thankfully no one kicked me out. So
and you talked there about somewhat, or you touched on it somewhat, sort of navigating the underground scenes as well, you know, because that's tough, I think, because it's one thing building your own audience and growing that on Twitch and getting some of the bookings that you've had, but it's another thing getting into a scene, because, you know, it can be protective. You really have to know your stuff and be deep in it. And you've done that successfully. So how have you navigated that transition? And I guess what have been the shows or the people that you're most proud of from within that underground scene?
I think this has been like really tricky to navigate because I would say that ultimately I like straddle both lanes. And I want to as well, and I want to keep doing that. And I've had so many conversations like with people over the years about whether I need to pick a lane and make a decision. And I just can't do it. But I think the thing that has saved me, I guess, is like just being authentic with it. Like, these are the sounds that I love and I've always known, and so are these, and there's no pretending about anything, I guess. And like, ultimately, if you can curate your sets in a way that blends the two of them together, or just be good at knowing which room you're playing to, which crowd you're playing to, and how to tailor your set accordingly, then there's no reason why it shouldn't work. But it does mean, in my case, I feel like the journey takes a little bit longer because you almost have to like break through in your own lane before you can like fully capitalize on it. But I guess in terms of the shows, like, I've been doing some epic like festivals in Belgium where I can kind of play what I want.
That's
and
really cool.
well, I mean, actually, even more recently, like, I'm just doing a lot more shows where I can play what I want, which is amazing because that was not always the case.
Because they trust you. They've seen what you're doing. They're like, you do what you want.
Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. But I did No Requests with Tiffany
Really cool.
at Alternet. That was amazing. And Baby J was on after me as well.
Wow.
Like, that's literally exactly my kind of sound, my lane. So that was something that really made sense to me. Tola One as well in Peckham last year was so sick. Like, I just got to, just dig a bit deeper into the crates and play a lot of the stuff that in other rooms I probably can't get away with.
That's amazing.
But yeah, there's the handful of them. And then Leeds Festival, like to this day, was just one of the most epic nights of my life. That was the crowd of 20,000. And
how did that come about?
I just got an email. I just got an email one day like, hey, do you want to play Leeds Festival? And I was like, yeah, okay. I had no idea it was going to be to 20,000 people.
Is that main stage?
No, it's the LS23 dance stage. I was opening the stage, so I thought I would be playing to an empty field. And I took my sister with me because we were going to fly straight from Leeds to Ibiza the next day because I had a show there. We were setting up on stage with the videographer. Thank God I got a videographer. Because sometimes you're like, nah, it's not really in the budget today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gambling with that. And yeah, we were setting up for the show and we could hear like these screams in the background. And I was like, oh, that must be another stage over there. And then suddenly it's like we hear this stampede and we look up and thousands of people are charging towards the stage and like I've not even started. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
And just this whole field filled up and it was like an ocean of people.
Wow.
And the best thing about all of it was that it was the most connected I've ever felt to a crowd in my life. Like they moved to every single beat from start to finish of the set.
Really?
And you just can't say that for all shows.
That's so interesting because it's also the biggest. And so, you know, your mind goes to, if it's intimate, then actually it's easier for me to connect because I can see the whites of people's eyes. But that wasn't the case.
It's just like you get different. I've had that since as well with like more intimate crowds too. You just sometimes are so in tune with them and you're like, you can take the set wherever you want to and the crowd is with you. And then you have other shows where you're like, I did a festival the other day and I couldn't move the crowd past like the first 3 rows. I was having an existential crisis on stage.
Was it not very loud or something?
I was reaching for everything on my USB. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. I was like, my agent is here. Someone who's booked me for another festival is here. All my contracts are going to be cancelled. I'm like, this is it. This is the end of my career as I know it. And I come off the stage and I just turned to my videographer and I was like, what was that? And I was thinking the next act is going to come on and completely show me up and I'm going to go back to my hotel and cry myself to sleep. The next act comes on. They're epic, like incredible set opener, everything, full energy. There's a whole crew of them as well with MCs. Same thing.
Wow.
And I was like, sometimes you just
can't get
a crowd that doesn't move so much. And that can be anything. It can be age range. It can be energy, like where you're at in the night with the energy levels as well, like where you are on the lineup, who's played before, who's played after, the drugs, what drugs are they on, what have they been drinking, like it can be anything. But when you get that winning crowd, you're like, I never want to stop playing.
I mean, there's such that's sort of the feeling that not everyone, but people aspire to in terms of if you're a sportsman, it's walking out in front of a massive crowd. If you're a DJ, it's capturing the crowd. And how did you get to a point where, because when I think about, you know, starting out DJing, you think I'm going to put a great set together.
Yeah.
And then you go on stage and you play the great set, whether it connects or not, I don't know. But maybe you feel like you've got less control over that or people should just love it because it's a great set. But it sounds like it actually evolves to something where, sure, you have your catalogue of tracks that you pick from, but it's a bit more fluid based on what's working and what's not. Like, how did that evolve? Or when maybe did you build the confidence to be like, okay, this I know is going to work now, or I'm going to flip my setup a little bit here because I think it's going to work better for this audience?
I mean, you're always learning with every crowd, but I tend to, because like as we've discussed, I've sort of got my 2 different lanes, if you will. Like I know when I'm doing a more commercial show and I know when I'm doing a more underground show. And so I'll have my crates for both of those lanes. And if there's specific new music that I really want to play, like I'll have a skeleton of a set anyway. Like, and especially with the bigger shows as well, like I will know what I want to open with and like have a couple of songs to start the show confidently, because you just don't know like how rattled you're going to be, or like you could be adjusting to the sound. There's so much to adjust to when you step out on that stage. You want to know what you're doing for the first 5 minutes. But then you do have to always leave it open to gauge what the crowd is enjoying and what they're perhaps not enjoying so much, and go from there.
And what is a moment that you look back on? I mean, you've talked about a few moments, and maybe it's actually that's something that's coming up. You know, I know you've been booked for Tomorrowland,
Yes.
which is just, you know, must be somewhat the pinnacle for DJs. So is there a moment that you're most proud of already? And I imagine, you know, you're really just getting started, so it feels like there's going to be many more moments. But is there anything you can look at and go, wow, that was, what a moment?
Definitely the shows where I've completely connected with the crowd, and it's been like an actual spiritual experience, because it's so funny in this job. As you were just saying, you start out messing around with some songs on a controller, put a little set online. You do not for a second imagine that you'll be on stage in front of tens of thousands of people, or if you can even do that.
Yeah.
You might suck at that.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
It's all, you're figuring it out as you go along.
Yeah.
And I think, so for example, that night at Leeds Festival was a huge moment in that it was like, am I going to pull this off? Is this going to work? Am I going to enjoy this? Am I going to hate it? Like, you do not know until you step out and in front of a crowd on that scale, like whether you're going to be able to deliver. Or you might run off and think, oh, that was so much pressure. That was horrendous. And I freaked out and just bottled it, basically. And maybe this isn't what I want to do. But in that situation, I came off the stage. Me and my sister cried backstage, and I was like, I was born to do this. And I think just every show that I experience like that is another reminder to keep going through the times where you got to sit down and have conversations with yourself and restructure things behind the scenes, and you feel like you're going backwards, but overall the journey is going in the right direction.
What are the values that you bring with you on the journey? And I'm thinking about this question from the perspective of, you know, an artist who is aspiring to grow an audience. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about resilience. I think that's important. Consistency, also really important. But, you know, it sounds like it is an ebb and flow of like emotion and the wins and the losses. And again, I understand that, because when you're building a business, the losses are so personal, the wins are also personal, but the scale of emotion is so big.
Yeah.
But so what are the values that you've sort of carried with you that artists should also maybe consider when they're going on this journey, which will no doubt be somewhat turbulent?
That's a good question, because you are so all consumed by your job at all times. Like, it's the amount of times people are like, oh, you know, it's your job, you got to like take a step back. I'm like, I literally am my business. Like, it's me, it's the human. There's there's no sort of product that I'm building here. Like, obviously there's branding, there's marketing, but so resilience is key, because you have to know when to be able to take a step back and disconnect. Easier said than done. I think confidence is a massively underrated one, and that's something that I've realized that I've been building as I go along, and it wasn't always there, and sometimes it isn't, and I have to prepare for the days when it's not there. Just being true to yourself and sticking to like the authentic route. Like, I've had a lot of things crop up along the way in my journey that have like tempted me in other directions, and I've even agreed to them at times and thought, oh, I'll give this a go because I don't know if this way is working. But ultimately, if your heart isn't in what you're doing and you're not making the decision based on what feels right, like within you, then it will backfire at some point. Yeah.
I think trusting your gut is interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, I've had this before where I've not gone with my gut or my instinct because, you know, I've thought that people with more experience or whatever would know what's best. But actually, you know, that hasn't been the best decision. And that sort of leads to confidence, because I think, again, going on this journey is there are some days where you don't feel confident and you don't feel like you can put on a brave face and show up, but you've got to show up.
Yeah.
You've got to show up and you've got to put on a brave face. And I think something I've learned from you today, actually, which I haven't been very good at, is perhaps being a bit more open or authentic with how I'm actually feeling. You know, because sometimes I'll go into work and I'll put on a brave face and be like, I'm good. Let's talk about what we're going to do next. But actually, like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe actually by being a bit more vulnerable, it wouldn't be a bad thing. You know, it would let the team sort of connect a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it does always help. There's a fine line, obviously, between that and then oversharing, and I'm always trying to master that.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it does go a long way to just share a bit of like what's going on in your mind sometimes, and also to work with that, like to know when you're perhaps going to be like distracted by something, whether that's in your personal life, and try to like plan for it. I'm trying to be better at all of that stuff as well, because like there are just going to be days where you need to be in autopilot.
Yeah.
And so you want to have those processes in place to help you do that.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm mainly actually just talking about packing for tours and shows. So like,
I thought it was a
what
bit
happens
deeper.
then? No, it is, of course. But then like a much more light-hearted analogy would be like what happens if you need to pack for a 2-week tour and on the day it boils down to it and you're ill and you're exhausted. Like, you got to have that packing list down to a T. You got to have those essentials ready to go. Put them in your suitcase already.
Yeah. I love that. And also, I just realised we glossed over Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't be glossing over Tomorrowland.
You're right. That deserves all the airtime.
So how did that come about? When is it? Are you excited? Are you scared? You know, what's next after Tomorrowland as well? I'm excited to...
I know. Well, so this will actually be my 3rd year playing at Tomorrowland.
Oh my God.
I first played in 2024 and I had the final slot of the night on the Elixir stage, which is like surrounded by water. All the production at the festival is absolutely mental. I've never seen anything like it. But it's amazing for footfall because it's kind of like between other stages. So people just like are constantly stumbling across the stage and gravitating to the energy.
Brilliant.
And the first time I played, I was really nervous because I was clashing with Steve Aoki. A sentence I never thought I would say.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, no one's going to be there. Everyone's going to go to Steve's set. But it ended up being packed and just absolutely incredible. The only downside was that it was right at the end of the day, so I couldn't then go out and get loose and go wild because we all had to go back home. The festival like actually ends at 1 a.m. there. Oh. Yeah, not like Glastonbury, where there's always something. But then last year, I had Golden Hour in the sunset, like the absolute best set of the day.
Wow.
And yeah, it was beautiful. Like the whole, like the crowd there. Also, you just go around all day and you're like, everyone come to my set later. And then later on you actually see them in the front and you're like, you came.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
It's just such a vibe. Like, and it's so international.
Yeah.
There are people who have flown from all over the world. It's a dream. It's a dream. And I can't wait for this year. I think I'm on the same stage. So I'm just like, bigger crowd, fatter tunes.
Yeah.
And then, who knows, maybe in future we get on one of the bigger stages.
I'm sure that
main stage.
Yeah. Shout out if anyone's listening from Tomorrowland to consider that for next year. Okay, hypothetical question.
Yes.
Is you're starting from scratch today, so no 100k followers, no Twitch streams, no big shows. What would you do to kick things off? Would it be different given that the climate is different and perhaps the tools are slightly different now?
Yes, absolutely. It would be different because, like I said, the circumstance plays a lot into this. And I think also not just social media, but the industry as a whole, it's like it's evolving exponentially right now. It's so, it's almost impossible to keep up with.
Yeah.
So where I started building a community on Twitch, for example, I might try YouTube. And I feel like that actually speaks more to promoters and bookers too. So that would kind of cover all bases in terms of like a cool community and wider reach. And I would have a lot of fun with the creative side of it. And I think like the branding and think of a concept or, you know, like, a visual concept or somewhere that I could film the sets, come up with an idea for a short series and then stick to that. Maybe it's like I do a month of, okay, this is this new project and I'm putting out a weekly set.
Yeah.
And just try to be consistent with something, but build a brand from the start.
Yeah.
Know my lane.
Yeah.
And focus on one platform for that core community.
I think that's interesting, but very interesting actually, because a lot of artists who come to us thinking about promotion, they haven't really thought about their brand, you know, and so often when we're sort of having these conversations with artists early on, it's like, okay, talk to us about your brand. Like, what are your values? Is there anything visual? Like, is there a visual identity there? Like Girl in Red, great example. Lots of great examples actually. Charlie XCX, like this summer or last summer. So a lot of artists haven't. But I think if you can get those foundations in place early, your content reflects that. You're immediately recognizable. Your tone of voice reflects that, and it then becomes a bit more cohesive and easier, I think, for an audience to sort of understand and become a part of that community. So I think that's smart.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because I guess while I have made it very clear that I've been figuring things out as I go along at every stage of this journey, I have always loved the sort of like branding side of things and made sure that my profile is like packaged in a way that, you know, hopefully is memorable. And like, I mean, I went through a really garish bright pink phase. I feel like that was probably around the Kiki era.
Yeah.
Even when I had that, like the late night R&B mix series, Henny in Hand, like I got so, I enjoyed the creative side of like, okay, what's going to be the font and the color palette and the type of imagery that I use for this, even down to like the format of the mix titles, and then like how I share that and present that on SoundCloud. Like, and while, you know, socials are super oversaturated and like streaming platforms now, the algorithm is still there and it is there to help you. And so if you can create something really cool and unique and package it in a way and then release it consistently, I like to think that it will still cut through and it will find the right audience.
Yeah.
And I've rebranded many times, that's for sure, but like there has always been a brand.
Yeah. And I think that's another good lesson for people from the community to take is don't be afraid to try things. And if it doesn't work, you know, you can always try something slightly different.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, people don't care as much as you do. That's something that I've learned with Unheard.
I wish they did.
I know. And maybe they will one day. So some questions from our community. Thank you for sharing, specifically for you, Annabel. So first one is from the Enough official. How do you maintain a cohesive visual and sonic identity when transitioning from digital platforms to big festival stages without losing that underground essence? Lovely.
That is a big question because I've never had a visual team. And I don't have stage visuals either. I just have my logo. But I think I've at least always been clear about that. And then like the colors that I like to use. Yeah. But I mean, even the other day at this festival, I was having a conversation with the lighting tech like 2 minutes before I was starting my set. Like, please, can you get rid of the green lights? Get rid of the green lights. And
so it's obviously there, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like I must have an eye for it, and I have a vision. I haven't had the budget to invest in like big stage visuals yet. It's definitely something on my list, and it makes a huge difference to your live production. But I think as long as you know your brand, like we were just talking about, and you build from that, then you should be okay, and you have your little like your own guidelines to follow. But like in terms of transitioning from online to the bigger stages, again, like my Twitch doesn't speak to my live shows so much. Like over time, I've tried to change that though. So I did go from having like white walls behind me washed in like bright blue, pink LED lights to now I've like switched up the whole layout of my bedroom just so that I can have, and like spent a ridiculous amount of money on cameras just so that I can have like a much more club feel on my streams.
Interesting.
So it is something that I've like thought about and then tried to implement that like consistency across the platforms. Yeah. But it's taken time.
Yeah. And it feels like it's sort of A feeling. It's like within, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's the same with Unheard, I think, is that the brand, at the start in particular, the brand comes from you, you know, as a founder. And then it's almost like an instinct or around like the color scheme, you know, does it pop, or the tone of voice we're using, like does that sound? And it's just, I think, something that that is from within. And then the challenge comes, I guess, when you scale.
Yeah.
And actually, like, you're not the brand person anymore, it's someone else, you know, but how you translate that onto that person, or how do you make sure that it feels aligned and scalable still?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's tough.
So I feel like I maybe didn't articulate the answer so well, but I definitely did have to go through a process of like reevaluating my branding online as I was transitioning into like the clubs and the festivals.
Yeah, makes sense. Great question.
Yeah.
Question number 2 is from Playdoa. As a solo EDM artist, I've been trying to get shows for a while with no luck. I have an EPK, 4 albums, and I'm performance ready. How do you navigate putting yourself out there with no luck? Context, this matters because I feel like I may be missing something.
I mean, you've got the EPK, so it sounds like you know your brand, and that you'll be able to build from that. I feel like creating like your own EPK. I mean, I love updating my press kit all the time, and I'm like, oh, no, okay, rebrand. Definitely get carried away with it. Like, I need to just sometimes leave it alone. But
maybe we'll share it with people. We'll do a like click here to download.
Yeah. Well, it's online. It's on my Belgium
Okay.
agency. Yeah, you can download it. So yeah, I think if you've done that, then you know the basics of building a brand, and the rest is now like just to go from there. Carry that into your artwork, your song concepts. I think, did it say that they have an album as well?
Yeah. They have an EPK, 4 albums.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
we've got the music too.
Gosh, I don't know, other than like probably it would be the same answer to like how I would start if I were to start again right now. Like, see if you can, a lot of people with their music on SoundCloud make a mix series just out of their original music or their remixes. So you like come up with a really cool concept for a name of the mixtape and just pack it with your own original music, since there's so much of it.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and look to your peers for inspiration as well. I think as creatives, it's difficult, isn't it, when you're stressing out about all of these things and you're like the ideas maybe aren't coming to you. And in those situations, I often find it's because I've been like in my head way too much trying to force it, and I need to abort everything, step outside, live some life, find influence again, let the ideas come to you, and then sit back down at the laptop and have fun with it and build something new.
I think that's great. And what I'd say to Playdoa, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is get in touch with us. Like, let's have a chat, you know, really open to having a conversation about where you're at currently and maybe how we can get you to the next milestone. Thanks, Annabel. One more question, and then I've got a final question for you too. One more question from our community is from Paint Official. When you felt your dream was no longer enough to sustain you, what made you try again?
Oh.
And how did you know this time was different?
It's not. My dream still isn't enough to sustain me.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I think like when you sign up for this career, you're signing up for a lifestyle, and there are huge wins, there are crashes and burns. Realizing that it's not sustaining you does not mean that you failed. It means that you're breaking into new territory, and you need to like reassess how, like, just your business and how you're making money. As I was like talking about earlier on, your artist fees might be going up for the live shows, but you will be doing a lot less of them because you're not playing at the shop every weekend like you used to, and that's natural. It's growth. It's a good thing, but you still need to do whatever it takes like around that to keep yourself in a stable position, because, and I'm focusing on that right now as well, because I have had a big breakthrough moment before, and I feel like I messed it up. I feel like I didn't make it count for something long term. I know that, like, in a way I did, and it all is part of the bigger journey. But I ultimately had a breakthrough moment, and I was in a really fragile position financially, and I could not, and also structurally, like I didn't have the right team around me.
Yeah.
I couldn't convert it to what someone else with that same moment might have been able to do with with the right infrastructure.
Yeah.
And like, you know, from a more stable position. So roll with the seasons and don't feel like it's the end if you have to go back to the office.
Yeah, fair. Actually, you touched on something there interesting. Is my friend, a guy called Phil, who worked previously at AWOL, has started a business called The Team Around You. And the team around you is almost like a pay-as-you-go team. So if you need a manager for a period of time, you can pay, whatever, 100 quid a month to get access to a manager. If you need a social media expert or publishing expert or live expert. And I think, shout out to Phil and the team around you, because perhaps, if you do have one of those moments and you feel like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, what do I do? This could be an interesting resource for artists to plug into now.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because that's another thing I could have a whole hour's conversation about in a separate podcast is the management structure.
Yeah.
The industry has completely changed. So why has the music manager model not changed to reflect that?
Yeah. Gosh, we won't get
it's
into
a minefield out here.
It is a minefield, and actually it's a theme that's been shared from other guests is that, it's there's like a lot of historical technology, legacy tech. There's a lot of old rules and regulations that are still in place that are really prohibitive to innovation and progress. So, we're trying to change that at hurd, and I think there are other people trying to change that too. So it's not going to be easy, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
And then final question, this is the closing question that we ask all of our guests is, when you started, what was the one milestone that you wanted to hit which would represent success? Did you make it, and has that shifted now?
I just want a 6-figure sync deal and I want to buy a house. That's what I want.
Okay. Any sync?
I haven't made it, but I will.
You will. Okay, I think that's a reasonable, real goal.
I think that's it. Like, when I was younger, it might have been reaching a certain status in my career or playing certain shows, but I'm already playing like epic shows and I'm already really proud of what I've built, and I've started releasing original music as well. I'm super proud of that. I love the sound that I'm making and I'm playing, and I love the shows that I do, and I love the community I built. I love these messages that I get from people that have been with me along the way. So that's like all there. I've made it in that sense. I've made it in the sense that I can buy myself a note flat white every day.
Yeah.
Love that for me. Didn't used to be able to do that. But I would love to buy a house and just I think I want to break through to another level of financial security. And I feel like I've laid down all the foundations now and learned so much along the way. And I'm in the strongest position that I have been yet. And bring on whatever happens next.
Oh, I love that. That's a great way to end. Well, thank you so much, Annabel. You've been amazing, and congrats on the progress. I'm really excited to see what the next few years look like. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Annabel.